guys, Scott Butler from Edge Financial Advice Network. Hope you're all well. Hey, for those of you who are just joining us, we are holistic financial advisors helping people to hit their lifestyle and retirement, wealth creation and family investing goals. One of the things I wanted to quickly chat to you about today is, I guess, global trends, and when we are investors, what are the global trends that we're watching, and how can our, I guess, country of residence be a bias sometimes? Because when you live in a country, then everything you see is what you believe to be, I guess, without thinking about it, in the rest of the world, and it's not really true. In my country, Australia, we have certain beliefs about things that would happen normally in our country, and then you would probably overlay that with what you think happens in the rest of the world. One of the examples I wanted to use was, you would think that chocolate sales in Latin America would be extremely high during Easter. Why is that? Well, Latin America, they're all addicted to sugar. That's one of the trends that you have in Latin America is, companies like Coca-Cola and Nestle. This is where they make a killing, because everyone has a hankering for soft drink. You walk around and you'll see, Mexicans or Latin Americans having a bottle of Coke on their table while they're out having breakfast. You might see them having an omelette or something like that with, instead of a orange juice or a cappuccino, with a bottle of Coke. So they're, a lot of the Latin American countries are fully addicted to sugar. So you would think that around Easter time, that chocolate sales would spike substantially, and maybe even shares in, Cadbury or Nestle or in those companies that make chocolate eggs would skyrocket. However, they don't do that. They are highly religious. A lot of Catholicism, which goes back to the way that a lot of the countries were settled, or invaded and resettled over the last few centuries. But if you're over in Latin America around Easter time, you won't see walls and walls and walls of chocolate eggs like you do in the shopping centres in Western countries, where the Western countries have changed Easter into a chance to market, sell, extract money from the citizens under the guise of it's another sales event where you've got to spend money and pay, things, waste money for your family. Where in Latin America, they don't do that. For 3 or 4 days, most of them are in and out of church services, and they're doing family events. So you would say, okay, well that's a trend that I wouldn't expect, or I wouldn't understand if I'm from an investor from a Western country. I never really understood what's going on in Latin America. I guess another one of the examples would be diabetes. Diabetes is on the rise. Okay, in Australia, type 2 diabetes, so sugar-induced diabetes, is probably on the decline. We can see that that's reducing somewhat. Whereas in Latin America, they're so far addicted to soft drink and sugar, and like Pepsi and Coke even sponsor some schools and go in and buy them chairs and tables and then put a vending machine in the schools, which is just horrible. But it seems to be an easier way to get clean drinking fluids, because the water's not always up to 100% scratch. Because don't forget, Nestle still sells bottled water. What are they really selling? They're selling the plastic bottle. Water's in theory free, kinda, or it should be at least. Where am I going? Okay, so these are some of the investing trends. You go, okay, well, how then do I get my head around an investing trend that is so large in across the world? Well, perhaps I have to understand that the developing world or the transitioning world is 70% of the world. Western world has probably peaked, and those trends are probably set in stone. Whereas Africa, Latin America, Central Asia, Baltics, some of those countries are still deciding what their trends are. They're transitioning into more money, which is great, because everyone should be brought out of poverty. So I guess if I was an investor in Australia, would I think that a company that was developing diabetes drugs would be a good investment? Maybe. But once you get over to Latin America, you're like, holy crap, yeah. There's a high percentage of people who are overweight, in the old scale, what we would call obese, pudgy, BMI is too high, and it's sugar induced, right? So these are some of the things we go, well, maybe finding a Dutch or a Swiss drug maker that specialises in diabetes drugs or treatment, never a cure, treatment only. Maybe that's a good investment, and maybe it is when you realise that 2/3 of the world is starting to become wealthy enough to buy candy, soft drink, and they're addicted to it because they have addictive personalities anyway. And previously, buying those sort of things was even, believe it or not, slightly a sign of wealth. So, if you could afford to buy junk food, something above subsistence level food, then that was a sign to all your neighbours that you were doing well, you're okay. So some of those cultural things have stuck. And I guess as we as investors, when you travel a bit, whether you go on holidays to Bali or Thailand or Mexico, Turkey, even England and stuff, make sure you keep an eye out for some of the trends that you're seeing, some of the things that, if the shelves are full of it, that's a good indication that the trend is there. And some of those global companies are things that perhaps we should be investing in as defensive investments, especially as we come into a period of global slowdown. Global recession is kind of what we're talking about. Unfortunately, towards the end of 2023, calendar 2023, there is a high percentage of chance that there'll be quite a large recession globally, and you want to have some of your investments in defensive style things. And so, looking at the trends that the rest of the world will still be able to buy and will want to buy, not just our little country. I keep using Australia as an example because that's where I'm from. Australia's the size of 25 million people. We think we're a big deal. We're not. We're arrogant in our assumptions, unfortunately. 25 million people. That's the size of Florida. Put that into perspective. Anyway, guys, just my thoughts on some trends. And yes, when I was in Mexico at Easter time, and I was aware, and we went around to look to see what was happening and why there was no eggs, chocolate eggs, anywhere in any shopping centre, and we soon realised that the Easter Bunny does not come to Latin America. Latin America is a huge demographic in the world, third most spoken language, I believe, maybe second, and a region that is fast becoming strong economically. So maybe it'll catch on. Maybe in the Western world, the Easter Bunny will die too. We'll just go back to doing religious ceremonies and remembering, the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Anyway, guys, that's enough from me. Remember, life is a family sport. Give yours an edge. See ya.